not. Okay, welcome everyone. This is our second Maintainership working group meeting. And so I think there will still be more people who join along the way. But for now, we're just getting started. It's April 25th today, and Jerome's got the first item. This is read only.
Hey, can I just say something up front?
Sure, go ahead.
So Max and Manaj, is that correct? So I just want to say I'm super excited that we literally threw this together on a Thursday, and I'm actually seeing some engineers actually in this discussion. So I just want to acknowledge that. I really appreciate whoever talked to people and socialized and they're actually showing up. So I think we need to celebrate that a little bit. So thank you for attending. Really appreciate it.
No worries. It's interesting.
It's fascinating. If you're into this stuff, everybody else will probably find it boring. My wife doesn't want to talk about this kind of stuff, but that's a different discussion. Okay, go ahead, Michelle. Thank you.
No, thank you. That's very well deserved. So Jerome says, I'm thinking fulfillment's main focus for this working group will be on the customer's dot project and ensuring our team and processes are scalable and in line with other projects. We're going to talk a little bit in this agenda about specialty repos, and maybe that kind of falls in there. Go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll take yours first, Michelle.
What? Oh.
Whatever you were going to say, that was just.
I was going to move on, but I saw you typing if you want to verbalize it.
Oh, yeah. So the thing I was just going to point out is I think that's to exactly what you were saying, which is specialized repos and or other considerations we have. And then right now we don't have anything that is part of product. Everybody has to follow the same definition of done. So I want to make sure that that's consistent or stays consistent. So as long as we're good there, I think that's the main things at this point. Okay, cool.
Michelle, did you want to just bring your item up since we're talking about it now? Or do you?
I saw actually several points in here about specialty repos.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's just wait and get to that. And maybe in the future, we might consider a DRI for those, and so that we don't have a representative for all the repos. So anyway, changes since last time. This is very quick, and then we can get into the discussion topics. But number one, I have an APAC friendly day every Tuesday. And so as we have more people in APAC join, currently we don't have any. I'll set up an APAC time for every other Tuesday. I would like at least 3 APAC team members. We're targeting 7 in total. So it'd be nice to have at least almost half. Christopher, I don't know if you want to verbalize. Please make APAC happen. The next one, I've created an issue board in Epic to track progress of the initiative. The epic makes a little more sense because we can have sub epics for each exit criteria, but the issue board, I'm not sure yet what issues will show up here and what labels we should be tracking for progress. Darva, do you have an idea?
Yeah, just some thoughts. First of all, I like the sub epic idea. That's really good. I've noticed a lot of times engineers tend to default to the workflow labels. But I think we could use those maybe. The main ones I could see us using are in-dev, which means it's in progress, blocked, which means it's blocked by something, and that might trigger someone to document what it's blocked by. In review, maybe it's being reviewed by the larger GitLab audience, and then production means we've implemented it and it's probably closed. Just a thought.
Does anyone disagree with this? I mean, it's something we should just try.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Okay, good deal. So exit criteria number 1 is 1% done. So this is the intent really behind this section, is we should be updating what the status is each week, but there really isn't a status. So here's a good example. I did create that initial issue to try and get volunteers for our new working group. And so please communicate that out. I'll be doing that today also. But we can see if we can have some functional leads with good representation by maybe end of next week is what I'm targeting. My first help needed is related to that. If there are any exit criteria topics today that we can assign DRIs for, and I had a link to it. This is our exit criteria. And if I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. So these are all varying and they're not in order. But the first one is just representation, and I can be the DRI for that. This one is really more data related, capability to measure availability and management processes. We also need to make sure that we're covering all of the repos. At the end of the day, increase the number of maintainers or have a plan to get there, reviewing the duties and requirements, reviewing the current roles, reviewing the trainee process. Of course, all of these come with changes associated with them, reviewing the trainee mentorship pilot, communications plan, and then this one will define along the way, but handbook cleanup. And so before we really flail a little bit too much, are there any DRIs today on the call that want to have one of these exit criteria?
Because I know we discussed it previously, or me and Dennis did anyway, to take on number 2. There's already quite a lot of work done. I think Lucas in Create already has sort of like a front end ability to see real-time status of maintainer availability. The thing we're missing is historical status and seeing trends over time. So yeah, I'm more than happy to take that on for now.
Thank you very much, Max. And one thing that I should just say, as DRI, you don't have to do all of this either. So if you're collaborating with other people or working with Lucas, that totally makes sense. Are there any others before I move on?
I just had a question. Are those generally in order of priority? Like, are there any that we think that we should find DRIs for sooner?
No to the first one. They're not in order of priority. For example, the communications plan, most likely that's last, or along the way for each thing that we do. And for the second one, I think we might talk about a little bit in terms of what should we be focusing on now, midterm, late term, on Christopher's point. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. I just want to make sure that, yeah, there weren't any in mind that we were specifically looking for DRIs on at the moment, but sounds like that
All
might
of them.
clarify. Okay.
Hey, Michelle, one idea is rather than, I mean, what we could do is we could, I want to say temp DRI. Like sometimes when we say DRI, people think, okay, I'm in here for the long haul. What we could do is we just have a single sentence description is actually have somebody try to go draft what the issue consists of, that maybe is more expansive, just to be iterative on it. That might be more palatable.
Yeah.
For sign up. I'm not sure whether, like, I don't know how people think about that, whether we say the DRI or we just ask people to sign up to basically go expand on an area and try to write up something associated with it of what should be done in this, or what's people's feedback on that thought.
I kind of think my first reaction is if we could create just, I think this is what you're saying, I'm not sure, create a summary epic for each sub epic, just what we think it is, what the effort is, and then socialize that with everyone and ask them if they want to sign up for the sub epic. Is that what you were saying? For us to summarize, or were you looking for volunteers to create the sub epics?
Each of these has its own epic. Just make sure I calibrate. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's drafting the epic with a description is kind of the way I'm thinking about it. And then whether you're the person who drives that epic or not is a separate decision at that point.
So Michelle, I can help draft out the sub epics.
You want to help with all of the sub epics?
Just drafting them out. I can draft them out just to flesh them out, and then we can easily like distribute them.
That may make it easier for people because then they can get a better handle on, okay, like here's what's involved, and I'd like to be on the DRI on this one versus not, is kind of my thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
happy
Thank
to
you very
take
much.
a couple of those too, Darva, to lighten the load if that would help.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that helps as well because I'm a non-maintainer, so I don't have context into the process, but I have thoughts from outside maintainership. But if you can flesh out in a proper manner, I would be able to
Yeah.
take something up.
The good news is we're early in the process. So whatever you draft is the proposal, right? So in some ways you'll get feedback around it, around that. But like, because some of these, we just have the 1-sentence description, it's right now, it's kind of high level thoughts. It's not necessarily fully formed.
I'm sorry about my headphones. I don't know what's happening. Christopher, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, so if anybody's familiar with the air, water, food exercise, air you have to breathe every 5 seconds. You need water every 5 days, and food, I think it's like every 30 days or something like that. So the idea is like, what's the things that you need most urgently versus things that can potentially be delayed. And I was trying to think about things, and in particular, like, the one that comes to mind is somebody going through the trainees and trying to push on getting, like, we have an OKR goal to increase our maintainership. That's not necessarily a goal of this working group, but as part of that, we do need to look at our current trainees and try to understand, okay, like who's been in there for over a year as an example, as a trainee, and different aspects. So I'm looking for potentially somebody to take that on in the short term, which is kind of going and doing an audit of that and kind of pushing various managers on it. So it's probably a manager that I would ask to kind of take this one on.
I think that's part of number 4 as far as the exit criteria, increase the current number of maintainers and roadmap of growth and maintainership. Is that right? Or is there another one?
That's correct. It's part of that goal, but it's like the short-term win, right? Like we have people in the system. So like, it's like, how do we, encourage that along where it needs to be encouraged?
Yeah, I asked because I'm partially interested in 4 itself, but then as far as like a short-term audit, I think I can stick that on. Yeah, I'm signing up for it is what I'm saying.
Okay.
All right, so I'll jump in real quick. I believe this is an OKR, becoming a maintainer for the next quarter. And I think that I see it almost like, dare I say it, an engineering allocation, but I won't say that. But I think we need to work with product to reserve capacity for people to be able to finish this work. Some of the feedback I'm getting is, I'm too busy. I have too many deliverables. My throughput's going to suffer if I focus on this. And it's a temporary type of thing. This isn't permanent. We just need whoever's like working on their trainee maintainers issues to have the capacity to finish them up.
Okay, now I think I get it. So what you're saying is somebody who's currently working, who's less efficient because they're learning. So consequently, we need to make sure that they have the appropriate capacity with products on an individual by individual basis. So how do we make sure products engaged on that? How do we make sure we're communicating that effectively? And how do we make sure we're adjusting appropriately? Okay.
Yeah, because the message that you constantly get about maintainers is it's too much work for me to review. I have to go on red because it's just overwhelming. So the idea of finishing your trainee maintainer issue, you're going to get the same feedback. So we have to alleviate some pressure somewhere for them.
Okay, cool.
My question here is what the additional effort is to finish that issue compared to regular reviews. It seems like they would get reviews.
They are on red, a lot of them, for the regular reviews. And also the regular reviews, yeah, that's basically it. They're on red. Some of those trainees are on red already.
Part of it is because the trainees are assigned at a much higher rate than a typical reviewer. So when they take the red circle off, they get pounded with reviews pretty quickly, depending on the specialty. But like I had a reviewer on my team who took his red circle off, and he got like 8 reviews assigned to him kind of all at once. And then he was like, oh, crud, and put the red circle back up because he had other stuff he was trying to get done. And he kept getting reviews for days afterwards.
And what I'm saying is that might not be too bad of a thing, right? if that expedites the process of them becoming a trainee maintainer. But what isn't realistic is to keep on giving them their regular work as they're doing all this work. But we kind of want that, right?
Are reviewers the only one? I mean, is it because the bots is auto assigning them, or is it because people are assigning them, or both? Or do we know?
The bot picks them and the people assign them. Typically is what happens.
Okay. And it's only people who are probably training.
For reviewers, not necessarily. It's so the bot picks reviewers at picks trainees at 3 times the rate of a regular reviewer, I think
Yeah, that's right.
And that was intentional. That's why we built the bot to do that. So to work around, that's kind of working against the original reason that we did that.
How do we get to 3? We just picked it.
I think so, yeah.
Should we try 2?
In the spirit of efficiency, I think maybe we take this one into an issue, and then also address Darva's. Darva, do you see an action item in terms of working with product?
Yeah, I think we need to work with product. I don't know, if we should start with product leadership and let them know that this is coming, prepare your team. And then
I can take an action to talk to David about it. He
Okay.
knows about the OKR because he's been in OKR discussions, but I'll take an action to talk to David about. So we'll start at the top.
Okay, and then the EMs have to talk to their own PMs too.
Yeah.
I'll create the issue for the trainee maintainer getting pinged. Okay, where are we at now? Manoj?
Yeah, so my input was around whether we can have something like a local maintainer instead of a global maintainer, because it's easy. You can have a shorter cycle training somebody to be a local maintainer of a specific group or a specific domain, rather than going through the whole tedious process of becoming a global maintainer. And many people across GitLab work in the same area of the code base for a very long period of time, so they become comfortable in that area. So they might have a shorter cycle on becoming a maintainer for that specific domain. So that is also something that we could think about if we want to have more people come in as maintainers. And if you have local maintainers in different parts of the app, then you reduce workload of global maintainers.
So we actually proposed this as a strain relief for some of the database maintainership stuff. And we have a proposal in an issue that we actually had talked about trying to work on in 15. And the idea was to do it for maintainers and reviewers, but not for trainees. That would give them, in order to give them kind of a global view of all of the things that are out there. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but something we were going to try at least.
I also want to add one point that I've not written, because I see this trend of, if you become a global maintainer from a specific domain, there is also this trend of they are picked into more reviews of that domain itself. And plus they have reviews in other domains. For example, Imre in authentication and authorization, he's mostly assigned to stuff within authentication and authorization as maintainer, because he's the only maintainer from our group. I'm sure Max is also pulled into more reviews of compliance than other groups. So if you have a local maintainer, say in the group, then Imre's workload automatically reduces and he has time to get into other reviews.
So I'm definitely not opposed to this. I think this is the question we have. We already have this with repos, where it's like, as an example, the GitLab team has, I think, maintainers for all the GitLab members are maintainers, except for new hires who are basically onboarding. So I think local maintainership within the common project totally can make sense and work. The one thing I want to be careful about is that we're still going to need general maintainership as well, and we need to make whatever strategy we come up with here, we need to make sure that's supported as well, and doesn't get lost, because I think we're always going to have parts of the code base that don't map well, or that we have to kind of figure out here. And our choices are is everybody goes local, which I think is going to be super hard to do, to be honest, unless we go to managers being responsible for that, which I'm we could do, but I haven't seen that work well in a past life. So kind of my thinking is we still need general maintainership, and we need to make sure that however we roll this out, it's in a way that still people are encouraged to go for general maintainership. In particular, if you're looking to influence the code base across the entire product, I think that's the case where like having that understanding of the code base is super important, whether that be in frameworks or other aspects. So that's kind of my high level thought process.
See, I think maybe Manoj, you had a point before mine, or was that already expressed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I was just wondering if we should explicitly add this as an exit criteria. It has come up quite a bit, and it could be to evaluate local maintainership and perhaps kick off an experiment as part of the exit criteria. Cool. Yeah, I can add an MR for that.
Yeah, we can do that, or maybe you can add it on to number 5, reviewing maintainer duties. Even
Sure.
if their duties are no longer global.
So I was
Okay.
about
Go
to
ahead.
actually type, sorry, Michelle, type
Go ahead, you
something
go ahead.
down. We have a lot of exit criteria for this working group, so I want to try to keep it in scope if we can, or even merge some if we can. But I just wanted to mention we have a lot of exit criteria.
So I actually noticed that too, and the reason that I decided to push Christopher to merge the MR ahead of cleanup is because I really feel like, for example, what Nick and Manoj just mentioned, I do think it ties back to number 5. I really feel like once we get into those sub epics where we have freedom to be more specific, that those things will start cleaning up.
I was going to add that I think this could also fall under exit criteria 5, the review of maintainer duties and responsibilities. So maybe we want to cover this as a part of that exit criteria.
Yeah, I think that's what Michelle was suggesting earlier with the seems like number 5 comment. But yeah,
Right.
I agree. Thanks for pointing me to that. Agreed that it would be good to not add too many more exit criteria.
Yeah, and to be just to be somewhat explicit, like that was just Christopher's brain dump at the time, and people added things as well. So like if you ask me at a high level, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for increase in maintainership and a system in place that I have confidence that we will be able to support maintainership through, let's say, the next 5 years, under understanding our growth and potential of both the product as well as potentially the growth of the organization in the business. So that was kind of my high level, kind of 2 high level exit criteria. But like if you put those at the top, it's too abstract for people to really get grappling on it and kind of get executing it. So that was kind of my thought process.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left. I'm not sure if we can get to this last one. So just in case we don't, I have 4 action items at the bottom of this agenda. But I'm going to go ahead and try to do this last one. So there are a lot of specialty repos. I've called out Workhorse and Database as 2 of those because they frequently ask for volunteers. I know each of them have asked at least 3 times to just like, please help us. But the pattern is these are also in very top heavy areas. And so I've listed like 95% of Create as Senior Plus. And with the database, it's all of engineering. And so my question here is if there was something we could do now or midterm as a trial. Go ahead, Darva. Oh, is Darva gone? Darva's gone.
Yeah, she probably took a break. So yeah, she says, should we identify all the specialty repos and identify DRIs and ask to focus on increasing maintainership for the specialty repos? And then goes on to say, we will need to set specific goals for the minimum number of maintainers we need for these repos. And whenever we go below that number, maybe a notification should be triggered. We should be looking automating when possible. So like we already recognize some. The question is, do you do the audit first or do you get started on the 3 that are the 2 or 3 that we've already recognized?
Yeah, and that's really my question too. And so maybe for this one, I had mentioned the DRI for specialty repos. Maybe this one just turns into an issue too, to see if there is a short-term plan that we can put in place. Thoughts?
I'm sorry, I missed what was said, but one of my concerns was I don't have a clear picture of how many of these we have. So we need like a list of them, and then maybe we can go from there. But that was one of my concerns or questions.
Yeah, so I know where it gets merged, so I'll have to go back and look, but is part of product in theory is the repos that I'm mostly concerned about at this point. Everything that's in is part of product, that's what MRA count gets counted against. So people are very motivated to add it to that list. So I'll take the action to provide that to the channel. And then we'll need somebody to help with figuring out how best to attack that problem. And the two people that I would recommend getting in touch with are Kyle and Stan. I don't know if I have capacity to necessarily kick that off at this point, but I can at least get a thread started there.
Okay. I think that works, and we can take it from there async. Does anyone have anything they want to add in the next 2 minutes?
I'm kind of curious about how we are defining specialty repo, because it's there. Database gets lumped into that category, but I feel like there are actually kind of two classes of maintainers. There are maintainers that are sub-maintainers of the GitLab Rails repository, which includes database, backend, front end, product intelligence, maintenance, workflow maintenance, and like a bunch of other subcategories where they're maintainers of the GitLab org/GitLab repo, versus repositories like Workhorse, like Omnibus, that kind of thing. And I wonder if we actually need two different solutions for these two different groups of people. And I know that this is a complex topic to introduce at 1 minute left, so we just.
It's a good question. Like the other way to solve that problem is you turn everybody into their own repos, right? And then you blow out the repos as an example. So, but it's an open question, and I agree with you. Like we've got to work it to figure out whether it's a different process. Do we make it the same problem, or how do we basically work to address that? Or we go to a giant repo. That's the other option, right? Though I'm not recommending that either. I'm not recommending those options at this point.
Alex, do you want to take an action on this of anything?
I don't know what, but I can. If there is something that we can figure out, I don't know what to say.
Maybe what you could do is just maybe define the differences as you just explained them, and just pose the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can do that. Post it in the Slack channel, maybe, or
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we're at time. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.